Welcome to the Starfish Diaries. I am your host, Liz McKean, and you might have found me from another podcast or from yoga or through coaching or maybe a recovery event, but all that matters is that you're here now, and I am so glad that you're here. On this show, we're going to be talking about identity and self-trust and recovering from all sorts of things, including shame and burnout and squeezing ourselves into what we think good looks like. And I'm going to use a lot of metaphors because that's how I make sense of the world. And I'm hoping that helps you too. I'm really just here to remind you and honestly remind us that there is no such thing as doing life wrong and that you do get to make your life into a place that you want to be. And we're going to figure it out together. So let's go. Welcome to episode 1. Holy moly, here we are. I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you for, just hitting play and putting me in your ears. I'm so delighted to be here with you. I love a podcast because I love putting in my little earbuds, and whether I'm walking or driving or doing dishes or whatever, those are really the primary things that I'm doing when I'm listening to a podcast. It just feels like I just am, listening to a friend, or sometimes I even feel like I'm just listening to pieces of myself reflected back to me, because I think anything that we ever hear from someone else, we just kind of filter through our own experience and our own wisdom, I guess. And it's just so unobtrusive because, first of all, you can always hit stop. And second of all, it can just come with you. And I don't take that lightly. So thank you for letting me into your earbuds. I want to start with a few deep breaths. I want to start and finish episodes with a few deep breaths. I guarantee by the end of the episode, plenty of times I'm going to forget. So we'll say definitely start, maybe finish. So I'm going to do 3 deep breaths. There have been a lot of times in my life that people have invited me or instructed me to take deep breaths that I have not wanted to. And I have told them to just go and suck it or something equally rude that I'd say in my own mind. So if you're saying that in your mind or out loud to me, that is okay. You don't have to breathe with me. You can also just listen. And if you want to fast forward, you can do whatever you want. The theme here is going to be all about choice. So 3 deep breaths. Going to take a deep breath in through the nose in a moment and hold at the top and then exhale out of the mouth. I'll guide you, and also you know how to breathe. So go ahead and exhale all the breath out and then take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold. Out slow through the mouth. Yeah, next one. Big breath in through the nose. Hold. Out through the mouth. A little longer. Let the breath be shaky if it needs to be. Mine is too. Drop your shoulders. One more. Biggest breath. Hold at the top. Hold a little longer. Open your mouth. Let it go. Hell yeah. We did it. Thank you for being there with me or doing it with me. My first breath, sometimes my first couple are always a little shaky on the exhale, and that just lets me know there was stuff I had to let go of. So here we are. So this podcast, as you probably heard in the intro episode, is inspired by the Starfish story. I want to just emphasize the fact that Starfish story is just, for me, it's empowering because it is a scary time, in the world, certainly in this country, and it is easy to feel overwhelmed. It's easy to feel, if you're like me and on Instagram, probably way too much. I always feel like I'm being kind of yelled at by everybody and like I'm not doing enough or I'm doing something wrong or, and it's there's always something that we can do, and often that is just making a difference to the starfish that is right in front of us. I think there's also something really important about believing that everybody is doing that, and not demanding that everyone show you their work. Because that just takes away from the time that you could be spending throwing more starfish in the ocean. And sometimes you are the starfish. Sometimes I am the starfish. The amount of times that I have disregarded my own needs to be a support elsewhere, only to look back and be like, I wasn't helping anybody because my cup was so empty. I can't even count how many times that happened. So it's just really being honest, with myself about what I have capacity to do, and then making the choice and just believing in myself that I did the best that I could, and then believing other people that they're doing the best that they can. And this is not going to be a podcast or conversation about the things that are happening, in the world, like politics, etc. I guess I just felt like I wanted to acknowledge that it's kind of part of everything when it comes to creating this life that we want to be in. And there's not only room for making your life a place you want to be in, and that you feel safe in, and that you feel happy in, and feel fulfilled and feel supported. It's also like a really critical part of it. So that's just the part of it that we're talking about here. A lot of it I'm just going to be framing in my own experience. And that experience, for better and for worse, has been all about transitions and changes and making shifts that often feel scary, sometimes are sort of optically confusing on the outside. Like, why would you make that shift in your life? It doesn't make sense, but it does to me. And I just trust me. And that is something that I had to work really hard for. And I want that for you too. So that is what we're going to talk about here, is that deep self-trust, unconditional self-trust. So for me, that sort of knowing really started on the yoga mat. My Instagram handle is Starfish Yoga. You may have come across me because of yoga. It's just part of the way my mind works at this point. But back when I was just trying so hard to get sober, failing again and again, and just desperate in every way. And a lot of that was because I knew I was just going to die if I kept doing what I was doing. But I didn't want to stop because I didn't have anything else. And that's not, rationally true. Like, I've always had wonderful people who love me, and I'm incredibly fortunate in so many areas of my life. But in my, heart of heart and soul, I had this one tool to make life survivable. And I knew I had to give it up because it was killing me. It was actually the thing that made it was a guarantee of not surviving, but I had nothing to replace it. I had nothing. There was no other way that I knew to make life work. And I think we all have that. For me, it was alcohol. Before alcohol, it was food. And there's been other tools, quote unquote tools, that I've used throughout my life to sort of cope and make life work. And I think that is just such a beautiful thing about how resilient we are as humans, where we find something. If something is intolerable, we find something to make it more tolerable. And unfortunately, that often becomes its own problem. But that doesn't change the fact that if you are in a situation or wired in a way, as was for me, that can make just existing feel intolerable, for lack of a better word, to go out and find a tool that helps is, I think it's good. I mean, I think I'm proud of myself that I found a thing that allowed me to survive. And then, again, it became a thing that was going to for sure kill me, and it ruined my life 1,000 times and certainly caused a lot of distress and discomfort, to say it mildly, for people who love me. So anyways, all that said, for me, I'm talking about this in alcohol and addiction, et cetera, but that's not, the point is it was a coping mechanism. It was a tool. When I did yoga, when I found yoga during like my pockets of sobriety, it was like these little glimmers of how I maybe could feel without alcohol. Because every other time, every other moment felt like it was giving up the only thing that made life work. On the yoga mat, it was the thing I got back for giving that up. So it was like, this is the time that it's worth it. This is the time that I actually want to not drink because I feel like I'm making the choice. You know, I'm in these four corners of this mat, but I'm not blocked in. Like there's no walls, you know what I mean? It's just a mat and I could leave if I wanted, but I'm choosing to be here. And the teacher I had, this wonderful woman who I still know today, and I'm so grateful for her, she taught in a way that was challenging and full of choice. You know, it was just like, here's an offering of take this breath if you want to. Also, you know how to breathe. So it's okay if you don't breathe with me. Do this pose. Here are some suggestions of how you could do it and how it might feel for you. Here is a suggestion on how to do it in a different way in case that doesn't feel good for you. And always the option to just not do anything. If you've ever come to a yoga class with me, I will forever say, if all you do is lay on this mat and take a nap, I am so happy for you. You still got to yoga. Way to go. There's no force. It's all choice. And it's like a training space for self-sovereignty, you know, and I had never experienced that before. And I wasn't able to really understand in my mind that that's what was happening. But just over those hours and days and months and I guess years on the yoga mat, I learned how to look in instead of out to find out what I was supposed to do. Even when the pose was being instructed by a voice outside of my mind, I had the opportunity and invitation and reminder to filter it through what I was experiencing in my body and then make it work for me without judgment, without a right or wrong answer, except for what I decided was right for me, you know? And I just had never experienced that before. And at the end of every class, you know, at the end of a yoga class is Shavasana, which is, my dad likes to call it like yoga nap time, where you just lay on the mat and close your eyes and you just breathe and you just like soak in all that good stuff that you just did. And I just felt more free in those moments than I ever had. And I'd never felt freedom before, except for when I was drinking. And that was not only short-lived, also untrue. You know, it became its own cage. So I really have built from there, from that place of looking in. And even with that knowledge and with years of practice, both actual yoga and just practice of checking in with me and trusting me over the outside voices. Honestly, sometimes there's a lot of voices on the inside too, and it's finding the one that really is me versus all the ones that were, you know, accepted as myself even though they weren't. I think especially as a woman and one who grew up in like 80s and 90s, like there's a lot of voices in there that don't belong to me. But more and more, the one that's me, that I trust, and that I like I like me unconditionally. So even the times that I listen to the voice that's me and I do the thing that feels right for me just because I wanna, you know, and I feel like it's the right thing. And that doesn't mean it's always something fully, you know, just for me. Often that is a way to be of service in the world that maybe doesn't make sense to anybody but me, but I know it's the right thing. It usually is. It usually works out great. And the times that it's not, that I change my mind or I get new information and adjust, that's great too. That's where the unconditional like comes in. You know, there's this trust and then there's a like behind it. And all of that adds up to this life that feels in integrity, both on the inside and on the outside. And that has taken years and years of on purpose building that takes minute by minute remembering that that's the way I do things now and not the old way. And it's the reason I'm doing this podcast. It's the reason I am so passionate about being a voice in the recovery space. It's the reason I am a coach. It's the reason I have a life that feels like me and not like what is supposed to be. And it's never going to be perfect. How boring would that be? And it's always evolving because, good Lord, even if I didn't have the somewhat sordid past that I have, I still would be an incredibly different person today than I was. I mean, yesterday, we're just forever growing physically, mentally, emotionally, all those things, spiritually, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to talk about that. And I have to be totally transparent with you. Actually, I don't have to. I choose to. See what I did there? I have recorded this episode number 1 4 times. I'm sad that it wasn't just the 3 because it's fun to say thrice. I have done it thrice. If you know, you know. From Schitt's Creek, which, oh my gosh, if you haven't watched it, please do. Anyways, I recorded this 4 times. And the first 2 I deleted right after I recorded them. The third one, I just put a big do not use for my wonderful editor, Sean. Thank you for being wonderful. Because I'm just figuring it out as I go. I've podcasted before. I've been both a guest and a host, and I've spoken. I mean, gosh, if you know me, I'm a big talker. I have several friends who our friendship lives a lot on WhatsApp, and I am a many-minute speaker. So buckle up, everybody. Anyways, I would record and then kind of just like lose the thread or suddenly find myself speaking to a certain person, the person that I'm worried will have judgment about something that I'm saying, instead of just saying the thing that I want to say or talking about the work that I want to do here. And that's going to be really challenging. I'm fully aware and ready for it to be hard because, like so many of us, I have lived a life of worrying about getting it wrong, worrying about getting in trouble, worrying about judgment. Certainly in the digital age that we're in, I think we all have those worries. And there's stuff that I'm going to talk about that I know people disagree with. There's a lot of things that are just important to me that I know conflict with how other people have gone about their lives, essentially. And I think that's really exciting because it all fits. It all gets to be like my way of doing things doesn't change the way you're doing things. And my whole point is to talk about how you get to choose, and how when you do choose, when you do find that voice that is you, like under all the other ones that are really just trying to protect you, right? The ones that are being like, no, don't do that. Don't do the thing that's going to make you happy. Don't say the thing out loud. Like those are just pieces of you from other parts of your life that are scared, so when you get underneath that to the one that's you, the brave you, the true you, in internal family systems, therapy, it's like a method of therapy that talks about all those different parts of yourself, right? It's the family, quote unquote family, is inside of you, not outside of you. And it talks about how all those parts are protecting you, but then there's a capital S self. And I am not a person who is an expert on internal family systems. I mildly regret bringing it up because I hope you don't think I am, but that's just that capital S self part of that whole concept has always really spoken to me because I feel like I have access to that in a way that I didn't before. And I didn't know that even existed before. And I really want to speak from that place, which takes some courage. And I say that from such enormous privilege. I know that even being able to talk on this microphone is something I feel very grateful to be able to do. But I want to talk from my capital S self in the hopes that maybe you connect a little more or a lot more with your capital S self. And if you are someone who relates to anything that I said, but certainly parts of my story, whether that's a history of mental health, maybe you are like me and a woman in around in your 40s. Maybe you have an ADHD diagnosis. Maybe you're in long-term recovery. Maybe you're not even sure if recovery is the right word for it anymore. I mean, same. We're going to talk about that. I think we could be very similar and we could also be very different. Actually, both of those things can be true at the same time. And this conversation matters because it just takes a lot of reminding and remembering that there is that capital S self in there and that you can trust her or him or them. And it's actually really critical that you do. Because think about that little boy on the beach, picking up the starfish and throwing them in the ocean. Nobody told him to do that. In fact, as the story goes, that old man came up to him and said, "What are you doing? This is dumb. You're never going to make a difference." And he thought about it and he was like, I'll pick this one up and throw it back in the ocean. And it made a difference to that one. And he trusted himself there. And thank God, that little starfish got to live. And let's all be like the little boy on the beach. Yeah. All right. One of the things I did with the previous episodes that I deleted or whatever, decided to redo, was I forgot the part at the end. We're going to take some deep breaths, my friend. Before we do, I just want to say this is the very beginning, right? We are just starting to build this ship, but I'm going to freaking launch it on Friday. So if you're listening to this the day it drops, it's Friday. I'm so grateful that you listened. I could just go on and on about how grateful I am, and I will stop because your time is important. But I hope you hit subscribe. That will allow you to know when a new episode comes out, which will be every Friday, because I just freaking love that Friday feeling. Even times in my life that I've not been a Monday through Friday person, Fridays just feel good. The vibes are better. People are happier. I don't know. It just feels like a freedom sort of day. Even got the F. There's nothing better than words that start with F, I tell you. I hope you subscribe and come back and listen more. I'm going to have a lot more to share, and there's going to be ways that if you want to connect with me outside of this podcast, you can. For now, you can follow me on Instagram at Starfish Yoga. No pressure. If you hit subscribe, or even if you just come back and listen again, I'll be so happy. All that said, let's do a couple deep breaths. No, let's do 3. We did 3 last time. We'll do 3 again, all right? So exhale. Let it all go. Then breathe in through your nose. Hold. Slow, long breath out through your mouth. Let those shoulders drop. Yeah, again, big breath in through your nose. Hold. Out through your mouth. Relax your forehead. Yeah, one more. Big breath in. Biggest breath all day. Hold at the top. Hold it a little longer. Maybe even sip in a little more air. Let it go big. We did it. I adore you. I'm so glad that you're here. I can't wait to have more conversations with you. But for now, goodbye, and I'll see you next time.